What's up, everybody? It's Charles. Today, taking your questions on Golf R upgrades, oil leaks, airbox issues, and more. This is episode 250 of the HumbleMechanic podcast. Remember, if you want to get a question on a show like this, email me, charles@humblemechanic.com. Put question for Charles in that subject line. Ask your question right at the top, give me some space, then give me the details of that question. Helps out so much when trying to answer your question when I actually know what it is. There is also an audio-only version of this and many other shows on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, or over at HumbleMechanic.com. And real quick, if you like the show and want to throw some support, as well as score yourself some amazing discounts to places like Black Forest, Eastwood, MT Knives, Adams Polishes, USP Motorsports, Kerma TDI, and a whole bunch more, check out that crew membership program. As always, there are links down in the description to this and everything else we're going to talk about today. With all that wrapped up, let's hit these questions. First one up is from Ronnie. On my 04 4.2 liter Touareg, the driver's side airbox is separated at the first joint, leading to the place that screws to the airflow sensor. I have it tied together. Can this be glued? I can't tell how it's supposed to stay together. Thanks, Ronnie. Ronnie, great question. This is actually a super common thing to have happen. As you guys know, plastic under the hood does tend to get pretty brittle and fragile over the years. Your Touareg is 15 or more years old at this point, so to have that airbox break is not uncommon at all. What you can do, a couple of things. One, take it out and clean any gunk or goop or anything like that and super glue it, or JB weld it. You can use that plastic JB weld stuff if you want. I think regular JB weld, even though it looks a little ugly, will probably work just fine. Me, I'd JB weld it and then probably paint it just so it just didn't look so obnoxious. The thing I would caution you about is make sure you don't get any of that two-part epoxy or glue, whatever you use, near the airflow meter. That's probably why I would recommend taking it out. Then you can really do a good job of clamping that assembly together while the glue dries or the epoxy cures. You don't have to worry about firing the car up and that getting pulled in. It's a pretty far stretch that it would, but that getting pulled into the airflow meter or worse into the engine. So remove it, clean it, follow the instructions on the epoxy it or glue it together. Make sure you clamp that really, really well. You paint it, don't paint it, that's going to be totally up to you. And then put it back in. I would recommend probably checking the other side as well, because the passenger side is probably the same way. They also had the air ride tubing that goes to that for filtered air. Now, ultimately, if you don't fix it, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. You run the slight risk of having unfiltered air come into the intake stream, but a very, very slight risk. Like if you're going to the beach and driving around in the sand, definitely fix it. If you're doing normal driving, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. There's no need to worry about unmetered air because it still has to pass through the airflow meter, which is downstream of your issue with the airbox. So yes, take it out, epoxy it, glue it, whatever you want, whatever works best for you and the setup that you have to make said thing. If you're using epoxy though, do it outside because that stuff smells terrible. All right, next one up is from Nick. And Nick, thank you for doing your question exactly perfectly right. It says, what's the best modification for a Mark 7 Golf R that will not ruin daily drive ability? I recently paid off my 2017 Golf R manual transmission with about $30K on it. So of course the urge to modify has been growing stronger every day. Love that car for its fun factor, versatility, especially in the Midwest climate. Given that it's my only car and I have to do the daily commute, occasionally take clients, carry passengers for work, I'm looking for a modification that will improve drivability and fun factor without major sacrifices to reliability. I'm open to anything from software tunes, powertrain parts, driveline, suspension mods. I understand that every modification is a trade-off, but want to avoid soliciting the side-eye glances from passengers or exhausting NVH. Car is stock, but well-maintained. Thank you, Nick. All right, Nick, awesome question. Thank you for doing the format. It really helps me out a ton. So here is modification number one, and it's not gonna be sexy. It's not gonna be glamorous unless you're into this kind of stuff in like a super nerdy way, which I kind of am, and I know several other automotive YouTubers that are also this way, but it's going to be tires. Tires are going to make the single biggest improvement to that vehicle, period. Now, you're in the Midwest. I might actually look for another set of wheels and tires. I would probably want to put on some either all seasons or winter tires, depending on where you're at in the Midwest. That way you have good snow capabilities, good cold weather capabilities. Nokian makes amazing winter tires. I have their all seasons on my R32, mostly because it doesn't really get too bad weather-wise here in North Carolina, at least where we're at anyway. But tires are gonna make one of the biggest drivability improvements on the car without, slamming it on the ground or being dirt nasty low or camber gang or any of that stuff. I would look for a set of summer performance tires, and I would look for a set of winter wheels and tires. Make sure, of course, that they clear the brakes. You could probably even go down to a 18 or a 17. Confirm that it'll fit over the brakes, but that way you have a little bit more tire profile. The ride will be a little bit smoother. For my summer set of wheels and tires, I run the Firestone Indy 500s, which are a summer performance tire. I love them. The car is a totally different car from the all seasons to the summer performance tires. Improved braking, improved cornering, improved acceleration. Everything is better with this set of Firestone from a performance standpoint, except when it's cold. Then they get hard as a rock and I have no traction, which is why I switched to the all seasons. You're at 30K, you're probably due for a set of tires anyway, so this is gonna be a great mod. Now, once you get past that, we need to be thinking in stages, right? I would probably next tune the car. APR, Unitronic, whoever, right? Whatever dealer you have local, get with them and see what your options are. Considering though on the Mark 7, the clutch is kind of a weak point. Now, the Golf R may not be as weak of a point as it is on the GTI. That's something I'd really want to confirm for myself before I spend $700 on a tune, and then now I need to put a clutch in it. This is your daily driver, so we can't afford for the car to be down at all. You may need to do that clutch and that ECM tune kind of all together. From there, man, it's your daily driver, you're taking clients. I would probably not go wild with this car because you need it to be reliable. You can't afford to have your car down for a week over a weird issue with a tune or an aftermarket part that you put on, or you can't, well, you can, but you don't want to take clients around in a car doing that number, right? You want to have something comfortable that you're bringing people in. So tires first. Pretty much hands down, tires are going to be the first mod I usually recommend. Driver mod would be another one right up there. Then I would do a tune. I would do the tune as long as I didn't need, like 100% need to do a clutch along with it. If I had to do a clutch along with it, I would wait till I had the funds and do it all at the same time. Exhaust or downpipe is another thing that you can look at. We need to be conscious of how much noise that's gonna resonate. We don't wanna have a big, loud, resonate-y sound coming from our car if we're taking clients out, right? That doesn't, depending on what your profession is, that may or may not be a good thing. So dude, I would start there and then start to think about some of the other mods. Long-term, what do we want? Do we want this to be a stage 2+ car? Because then we're looking at intercooler and downpipe, exhaust and intake. Intake is another one that you might want to consider, but I feel like intakes are very expensive for what is a minimal gain individually. Now, if you pair that up with some tunes, of course, that's when you really reap the best reward of it. So tires, 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 not sexy, not exciting, but will completely change the behavior of the vehicle in a positive way if you buy the right ones, and in a negative way, of course, if you buy the junk ones. So dude, start there and work your way up. Map out though what you want this car to be in 3 years, because if you want a crazy mod, maybe we skip some steps, but if you just are gonna keep this as your daily, don't go overboard. It's easier to not spend the money than to spend the money and have to put it back to stock. All right, next one up. Good day, Charles. Compliments of the season. I removed my airbox assembly and discovered oil sludge buildup. I'm not sure what caused this buildup and how I could rectify it. I would appreciate if you could help out. All right, so this is a 2-liter, I think it was a CC or a Passat, 2-liter turbo CCTA CBFA engine. Based on the video, it looks like this is an oil leak, okay? There's a couple of places that are really common for oil leaks to leak oil down on the top of the transmission on the CCTA CBFA engines. Number one is going to be the vacuum pump. That's a piece bolted right to the back of the cylinder head. It's near the battery. There's a seal on it. Very easy to fix. I think it's just a couple of bolts and you're done, right? Super simple. The other, and really the more common leak, is that cam bridge right at the top. So you have your PCV valve is bolted to it, your coils are on top of it. When you take that off, that is actually not only acts like a valve cover, but it is also the cam bearings, cam ladder, cam bearing, assembly, either way you want to call it. That is a much more common leak point than the vacuum pump. The good thing is you take the vacuum pump off because when you seal the cam bridge, and you can reseal them all together. It is a special anaerobic sealant, although I've been hearing a lot of rumors of these coming with RTV on them from the factory. I think both will probably seal up okay. You just need to make sure you're not putting too much sealant, which is the thing I see more than anything, is way too much sealant on those cam bridges, cam ladders. And that can cause that junk to get into your engine. It can also be more common to leak because, contrary to popular belief, more RTV, more sealant, does not mean that it's going to do a better job sealing. Oftentimes that makes the situation leak worse than if you put the right amount. So you got oil residue. It's probably collected dirt, which is why it looks kind of sludgy, but oil leaks on this engine are very common. Get that stuff fixed, clean all that junk off, and you'll probably be good to go. Another thing you can do is add some oil dye before you clean it. Drive the car, then look and see where the oil's coming from with dye versus without dye. That'll help you trace an exact location, but I almost guarantee it's gonna be one of those two spots, vacuum pump or the cam bridge. Now, if you got oil down on the bottom too, and it's like really, really bad, we may be looking at a rear main seal as well, which is another common oil leak spot. That engine had some issues, which we'll address in the next question. All right, last one of the day. Hey Charles, my girlfriend has an 09 Passat 2-liter with 187K on it. We're about to get the timing chain tensioner done. I've noticed two things. Coolant is being used up very often, and the cam bridge seal is leaking as well. So the cam bridge seal is what I was talking about in that last question, on top of the camshafts. The water pump was replaced because the cam bridge is leaking, and after a week of driving was when I noticed the coolant level was very low. Do you think replacing the cam bridge seal is a DIY job, or should I let the shop deal with all my problems? Can you make a video showing how to replace the cam bridge seal? A search came up empty. Okay. Is it let's back up a little bit. Coolant, let's talk about coolant first. A couple of things may be happening. One, you may still have a coolant leak. Radiator leaking is common on those. Not proper installation of the water pump is very common on those, right? I've seen it a ton. The water pump's not put in properly and it still leaks. Or you had an air pocket in the system and it just took some time to burp out. Kind of depends on, did you have a low coolant level, fill it up and it was fine, or is the coolant level continuously dropping? If it's continuously dropping, we need to find where this coolant is going. Now, you're getting the timing chain tensioner done. You got a leak of the cam bridge. All of these things should be done together. You're taking the chain off. You need to put a new chain on this car with 180K on it, or almost 190K. You need a new chain. You need new guides. You need a new tensioner. You need a new lower cover. You need upper cover gaskets. Because all this is coming off anyway, adding on doing that cam bridge reseal is very, very easy. You've removed all the tension from the cams anyway. It's just all those bolts at the top off, vacuum pump off, PCV valve off, the coil packs off, probably one or two other little knick-knacky things, and you're there. And it makes it really, really easy. This cam bridge can be done without taking all that stuff off. It's a little trickier, but still not very hard. As far as if it's a DIY job or not, this really depends. If you are going to do the cam chain tensioner yourself, then doing the cam bridge should be no problem. If you are paying someone to do the cam chain tensioner, have them add on the cam bridge as well. There are special tools that it takes to do the timing chain tensioner. You don't really need any of those to do the cam bridge if you do it separately, but I love these as an overlap because you're 80% of the way there anyway. If you do the cam bridge yourself, again, do it all together. The key to this is making 100% sure you have everything spotlessly cleaned before you put sealant on it. Like I mentioned in the last question, don't use too much sealant, use the correct sealant, and make sure that all the rockers and everything are back set before you bolt this cam bridge down. Now, also, those bolts are one-time use, so you're gonna need, like 30 bolts, I think, 26 bolts, something like that. You're gonna need all new bolts for that, that cam bridge, cam ladder, whatever you wanna call it. You're also going to be looking at the bridge that holds the two camshafts together behind the upper timing cover. Odds are the screen is missing out of that, so you're probably gonna be putting a new one of those on. In addition to that, we need to look for any type of damage on that intake cam. When that screen of the cam piece that holds the two cams together in the front comes out, it usually starves the back end of the cylinder head of oil and can damage the cam. In fact, if that screen is missing, you're supposed to put a spool valve and a new intake cam, as well as that cam girdle, cam piece at the front behind the upper timing cover on. Usually with this engine, I take it case by case and kind of paint the worst case scenario for the customer. And as we get in further and further, we back things off. Okay, it doesn't need a cam bridge. It doesn't have an issue with the screen. The spool valve is fine. We just need to do the chain and reseal the cam bridge. So if you have the DIY skills to do the timing chain, doing the bridge, no problem. If you're paying someone to do the chain tensioner, go ahead and add the cam bridge on. It shouldn't add too terribly much more to the job, and then you're getting it all done at once, complete reseal. I would also have them inspect that water pump that just got replaced to make sure that it's properly sealed. Long-term enough, that oil leak will continuously cause water pumps to leak. So we need to get this all fixed up, but we just want to make sure we're fixing the actual thing that's wrong, not just, you know, loading up the parts cannon and blasting a whole bunch of stuff on it. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Questions, comments, you know what to do. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. Always appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, thank you so much for listening, or thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.